Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the July 21st, 2025 meeting of the Town of Richmond Selectboard. Before we get into the business of the meeting, is there any public comment on anything not on the agenda? No, the agenda?
Correct.
Okay, Conan?
Hi, very cool. Just want to warn folks that there have been numerous bear sightings in the daylight. I saw one this morning at 11 o'clock, quite astonishing to me, but we've lived on that property since 1959 and we've seen 3 in the last 2 months. Adolescent bears, but nonetheless, still frightening. And they were headed towards the path, the Safford Trail.
So not full-size bears, like yearlings or?
No, this was an adolescent, like it wasn't a spring cub, but it might have been like a year old.
A few months ago, I was backing out of my garage and I looked in my rearview mirror and there was a mama bear with 2 cubs on either side running like heck down my driveway.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, additions, deletions, modifications to the agenda. We had a couple. And I'm gonna challenge Josh to keep me honest here. One item that we are going to strip from the agenda tonight is the consideration of a request to use conservation reserve funds to purchase trees, garden hoses, and benches to be installed near the pickleball courts at Brown's Court. The reason we're going to drop that is because the item on the conservation commission agenda was not. The action on the agenda was very general. It did not state that this was a contemplation of spending money. But listen, all of us, I just went that out. So that will need to be sent back to the Conservation Commission to address. And then it'll come back to us.
Jay, point of clarification. I thought that the Conservation Fund Committee was an advisory committee to your select board. We, and just background, the chair of that committee came to a pickleball meeting the previous month. Then 3 members went to their meeting the following month. And as I said, I thought it was an advisory committee. And you're the only one that can make those decisions. Your meeting was properly warned, if I'm correct.
Josh, can you comment to that?
Believe that I'm trying to pull up the policy right now, but I think that for the policy, they're supposed to vote to make a recommendation. Let me pull the policy up. Almost sure they're supposed to vote to make a recommendation though.
Right, so I thought you were the body that made those decisions.
Make the decision, but we can only act on a properly voted recommendation. Karen, go ahead, please.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Aside from exactly how they stated their warning of it, because you're gonna have to look at every single warning that they've ever done that, if that's the case. Did they have a quorum? And did they have a vote?
Yes and yes.
Mine, yeah. Okay.
In this
think
case,
the chairs-
I do agree that playing it safe is the appropriate way to go, because when someone looks at the agenda, they need to know if, oh, is money contemplated to be spent here? I might want to go to that meeting. And by keeping the agenda item fairly generic, they weren't able to do that. Another item that Melissa brought to our attention was that the minutes of that meeting were not published within 5 days, which is a requirement. And that's also something that we need to work with all town committees to make sure that that does take place.
So pull up the policy. It does say here, prior to undertaking any of these activities listed. Yeah.
Can you zoom in bigger, larger?
I was trying, but it doesn't
Appreciate that.
work.
So it says the Richmond Conservation Commission shall make a recommendation to the Richmond Select Board.
And if you look at the next sentence, this will require providing the public with opportunities to comment on the proposed project, as well as consulting with experts, et cetera, et cetera. By not stating that an expense was contemplated, members of the public were not able to do that.
Funding recommendation.
So it can be brought back up at a future date, but I do think the public has a right to know that when money is contemplated to be spent. Kara?
Then I'm going to say, if we're going to go with technicality, does that mean that any funding the select board has already approved and spent? I mean, I'm really bothered by this because they've been multiple months of meetings You're going to have the pickleball courts. I've been told they won't be allowed to open until these trees are planted. It really feels like, was it intentional then? Because I've already talked to the select board about properly warning meetings so that people understood what was on the agenda. You also told your committees to do the same thing. Why then did it happen for just this subject? And there's going to be another subject for you to vote on spending money on tonight, that was properly warned.
Josh? Judy?
Hi, so we did have an item on the agenda about the pickleball courts. There were a lot of things that were moving and shaking in a short time frame, and I really apologize that we didn't simply change the wording to say we were going to have a vote on this. Also, can you move the shared screen to Article 3 for a sec? You know, there were just a lot of things happening, and I completely take ownership of not changing the wording of that agenda item, but the 3 parks proposal was on there, not as a voting item. So, you know, it wasn't that we intended to deceive or keep this out of the public eye.
Bart?
Could we look at the agenda? Is that what you're pulling up now? To see what was actually posted?
Yeah, it said feedback for the 3 Parks Commission, because basically what the Conservation Commission does when people come to us with a proposal, we suggest that, you know, they come to a meeting and talk about it or do it informally so that the Conservation Commission has a chance to decide if that's an appropriate use of funds, and also gives us a chance to check in with Josh. So you see at 8:10, feedback for 3 Parks Committee on the arborvitae. And
Right.
I just failed to change that. And that's because several other pieces had switched around, but it was certainly not intentional. And I'm sorry for confusing anybody.
Judy, mistakes are made, and I don't think anybody's saying that this was a culpable or intentional act. I just think when an agenda item may involve spending money, it's important to let the public know that.
Yep.
And so at this time, Josh and I have discussed and we've concurred that we should just bring this back at another meeting when this has been properly warned.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, was there any other change?
Do they have to have another meeting though, Jay?
I was just gonna ask one practical question. And Judy, in other meetings, when you've said, oh, we're gonna have a vote on whether to recommend funding, is that typically presented as we're discussing a possible recommendation for funding to the select board?
Yes,
for
I
this
usually
vote?
put it in the agenda as, right, consideration of an application. Because we don't we don't approve funding. We simply recommend it. We're an advisory board, not a decision-making board. So we just recommend to the select board what we would prefer. Yeah, so we try to clarify that. So that was, you know, there were just a lot of parts moving with
Yeah.
that particular proposal.
Yes, the Conservation Commission will need to have a meeting at which it's properly warned and voted. And Melissa.
Hey, Melissa Wolliver, I would like to state the reason I brought that up is because if the agenda item had said consideration of a motion to recommend, then I would have known that it was about the application to spend money, and I would have attended that meeting, and it would have given me the opportunity to provide a public feedback. And so I just saw that and I said, oh, they're just going to talk about the arborvitae trees. So I didn't understand that they were undertaking a recommendation of spending the nearly $13,000, which I would like to give a public comment on when they have that meeting.
Okay, so was there any other proposed change that you recommend that there's an additional warrant? But that's not a change to the agenda. Okay. Any other changes, additions, deletions from members of the board? Okay, oh, Karen, go ahead.
Request that you move item L in front of J. You have an update on the sales process of the Tesla. Could you put that in front of your executive session?
I don't have a problem with that. Does anybody else?
Makes sense to me.
Knowing Josh, you're giving us the update, right?
It's not Tesla.
Not Matt coming in to do it.
I don't believe he's coming into the, it's a pretty simple update. We're still working on it. I can say that later.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Then moving into our business items. The first business item is an update regarding a special meeting of the select board that will be held tomorrow to review and approve the engineering plan for the Southview 3-acre permit. Now, this meeting is going to have kind of an unusual format. We are going to be meeting at the cul-de-sac at the end of Westall Drive at 6 o'clock, and we'll be with the engineer, and we'll be stopping around to visit the various places for the chambers.
Yeah, structure strange.
Because there was some animated discussion at our last meeting about exactly where they were to be sited. And it was concluded that the best way to get this hashed out would be to be able to come and say, well, look. And then once that walkthrough has concluded, we will be coming to the library, guesstimating 7 o'clock-ish, but we don't have a guarantee on that. And that part of the meeting will be published, broadcast over Zoom. We don't have anybody walking around with a camera up on.
Actually, Duncan is gonna get a camera from MCTV to video the.
But it won't be
walkthrough.
live.
It won't be live, but we'll have a video available of that.
Nice.
Any questions? Just real quick, polling the select board. David has already told me he can be there. Are you gonna be able to be there?
Yes.
Okay, Bard
Unfortunately not.
and Caitlin,
I'm recusing myself because
okay, but are you gonna come?
I'll be there, so it's like at my.
Okay. So we will have a forum. Anybody in town, whether they live in Southview or not, is welcome to come. We can all use some more steps. Okay, the next item on the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Are you going to, at the public meeting afterwards, will there be information regarding the cost of those? I mean, the biggest question is how much is this going to cost? Because it was divided amongst the homeowners and it ended up being $1,000 each versus $100,000 each. There's a big difference in how this project moves forward. Were the costs available yet that they've been working on for months?
I think that is part of what the engineer will be ready to discuss tomorrow. We've asked him for that, so I hope he's ready for it.
Thank you.
Presumably it would be preliminary sort of engineering estimates, but it's not out to bid, but sort of an estimate.
Right.
And David, if I remember correctly, we were doing back of the envelope, which if I recall was substantially less than the statewide estimates of generic compliance. I mean, wasn't it like 70,000 an acre or something in many places? I'm sorry.
55 was the average, we talked about last time.
Yeah, and my understanding of the engineering construction costs of these structures, there were 3 of them, it was not even 3 times 75, I don't think.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So yes, there's hopefully a lot of information to be gleaned tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item on the agenda is review of a request to display a sign at the town center, which states abortion stops the beating heart. A little bit of introduction before we allow the requester to come up and tell us more about it. There are always questions about the legality of the sign on the front lawn that says, among other things, Black Lives Matter and all are welcome. Under Vermont state law, the select board has the right to have its own speech. This is not the speech of the town or any individual member, it's the speech of the select board. And that may seem like splitting hairs, but that's been documented in multiple cases over time in the state. And this is also something that after discussion with our attorney was deemed legally acceptable. So that's why we have a sign out front that does say Black Lives Matter and all are welcome. That does not mean that we have to put any sign any townsperson wants up, but we can certainly give them a public hearing to allow them to make their case. And that's what we're doing tonight. So Mary, it's your request. Would you like to come up?
Thank you. I am Mary Houle. 3 times minimum before I have made the request, just sitting here asking, and I've had no response. Everybody just, just like the woods, silent. So I decided to send a certified letter. And it wasn't to do anything other than to put it in writing and say, no one here had directed me as, oh, here's a form to fill out. So that's why I sent it. And I understand that the select board has, you know, the ability to do stuff. I get it. I was on the select board, perfect attendance, by the way, for 6 years. But I have had the opportunity to print a few things off, as it relates to political signs. And political signs do not simply mean, you know, I'm running for office. It's political signs that talk about a viewpoint. I have a very brief article. The title is Civil Rights Law, and it's from a group called Legal Clarity Team. And oddly enough, it was published on July 8th. My letter is July 1st of this year. Blah, blah, during election seasons, the appearance of political signs of public property creates confusion. While political expression is a protected form of speech, this right is not absolute. Governments establish regulations to balance the exercise of free speech with the need to ensure public safety and maintain community aesthetics. These rules dictate where, when, how signs may be displayed, creating a framework that campaigns and supporters must navigate. Now, the First Amendment and political signs. Political signs are not, as I said, exclusively, I'm running for X office. This means the rules must apply equally to all political signs, regardless of the candidate, the party, or the viewpoint being expressed. None of us here were responsible for the death that caused the Black Lives Matter organization to come up. None of us here probably supported Margaret Sanger and her request to totally obliterate a certain race of people. And so much so that Margaret Sanger advocated and got abortion clinics placed in marginal communities. And I don't mean that any other way than the way it was meant. Margaret Sanger also spoke for the KKK. She often lectured for them. So the very woman who proposed abortions wanted to get rid of an entire race. That's not my intention, but my intention here is just one paragraph in the letter that I wrote. If the reasoning for the current sign on the town property is because of one life lost, do not now ignore the millions of lives also taken due to abortions. The town of Milton has a policy that they have a rotating time frame. They've times that they allow a certain sign. You get a sign, and then that time expires, someone else gets a sign, they apply for it, and it might be 13 signs that get to rotate. It might be, you know, a different point of view that comes into place. So none of us were responsible for the death that caused the Black Lives Matter. None of us were responsible for the millions of lives taken due to abortion. But please, please give it a consideration. Either you limit what is out there. I would love for something to say Juneteenth, because that's something that we all understand. None of us understand why this life was taken. And it certainly wasn't, I think if times were different, it wouldn't have happened. But I don't think that can be said about abortions. Because once that freight train has started, I don't think there's any stopping it. So please consider my request and answer in the affirmative. I will make it a tasteful sign. I will get it painted up nice and pretty. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Any questions?
Any questions for the board for Mary? Okay, thank you, Mary. Are there any comments or thoughts from the board? Okay. Are there, Kara?
Make a request aside from what Mary's is bringing up to you, is the fact that you've pointed out that the sign out front is the select board's freedom of speech. Could you put on that sign that it's for Richmond Select Board? I mean, could you make it known that that way you get less questions asked about why is it there? If it's really Richmond Select Board speaking, then say it's Richmond Select Board speaking. I think that's a key message that you're not getting across. And the whole thing with the Black Lives Matter versus the other thing, how did you phrase it, Mary?
The second one?
No, how you just said it with the sign being not Black Lives Matter, but something else. I'm sorry.
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth, thank you. Sorry, I had to brain tap for a moment. I mean, and maybe in future years to come, you celebrate Juneteenth like you celebrate the 4th of July kind of thing, and make it a more welcoming public holiday versus a controversial. I mean, Black Lives Matter, the movement itself that was collecting money under that was proven to be corrupt or having issues versus the actual sentiment of Juneteenth. So it's just an idea. If you want more people to feel like you're hearing them and listening to them, then include more.
Okay, so in responses to Kara's first statement about making it explicitly the speech of the select board, when she made that point, I glanced over and pretty much as one, people went, okay. Does anybody object to our doing that? I don't know that we need to vote per se, but I think it's not a bad idea. Comment?
I think it clarifies why it's there in the situation.
Okay. Denise, I saw your hand go up first.
So a couple questions and maybe a comment. Number one, we have many policies in our town of Richmond about campaign signs. Do we have a policy regarding other signs on public property in the town of Richmond?
Outside of zoning, I don't think that we do.
Just the zoning as it relates to signs in general.
I personally feel that this town needs a policy on signs. And then another comment, I mean, I've been here all my life and this building was once revered as one of the most beautiful buildings in the town of Richmond. And, you know, it was our school, it was Richmond High School, and it's been here forever. It's a beautiful building, and I'm not sure if it's a historical building or not. But why should we have signs, any signs on those little tiny pieces of grass? I mean, I don't even know if they're necessary. Do we need them? Is it causing more, you know, more of the town residents to be upset? And is it worth it?
Okay, Bart?
Jay, well, actually, two follow-up comments. I think we might put a policy on signs as a future sort of agenda topic. How do we want to frame this beyond what statute directs us to do or not do, including some of the risks therein if we do certain things that are not ours. If we let other people do it, you go down the path of letting multiple people do it, is what I understand the sort of precedent. The other thing, Jay, I was struck that during one of our meetings, you pulled up a sign that was on the edge of town in somewhere in the Northeast Kingdom, I think. Clever. And frankly, I was somewhat taken by that in terms of what's the right place for a sign. And I kind of liked, and I made a comment to that, but then we let it go. I actually think the welcome to Richmond, like everybody's welcome here or something, is an appropriate thing to do. And separate from any consideration of what we put in front of the town center building, I think that's the proper way to, or a proper way to welcome people to town in terms of the major entrances, like Glover.
Right, and I know that we had several hands up. I'm just going to briefly show what Bart is referring to. The town of Glover, Vermont has that sign up multiple places in town, and it simply says all are welcome here. It has the rainbow, it has holy symbols, it has white on black, it has red, white, and blue. I think this is a very tasteful sign, just for the sake of reference.
And it might have been Kara who said, geez, well, do we have one welcome to Richmond sign?
Welcome to the village.
One talking about the fire department, one there.
Yeah, so we have two, which are not the only two references to Richmond. So I think that might be another agenda item to say, do we want more signs welcome to Richmond, and what should they say or look like?
Okay. Lonnie, I saw your hand go up, and then Angela, who wants to go? She has her hand up too today. So who wants to go first of you two?
Okay,
Right.
I love the idea of that very beautifully inclusive sign at the entrance to our community. I think that sounds great. I want to give a little bit of a pushback against the idea of the notion that this is a political sign that's on the front lawn of our community. What we have is a sign that demonstrates not just select board's decision around what you who are sitting here right now support, That sign's a reflection of policy that has actually been put in place by our town. We have a declaration of equity and inclusion that sits at the bottom of our town website. That was adopted by our town. That's very broadly inclusive beyond even what's on the front of our town center. The idea that that sign, Black Lives Matter, is just about one person who was very wrongfully killed is just not correct, right? We are dealing with a country that has systemic racism. That was the incident that was caught on camera that sparked people to actually finally speak out in a way that started to get some traction. It is, I mean, it's not political speech. It's acknowledging that we have rampant still, we have historic and current discrimination, violence being perpetrated against Black and brown people by many groups, hate speech, police, and ICE now as well, who could well come into our community. So I really strongly disagree that this is political speech. This is humanistic, loving support for our community members. And I think that you should be cautious about putting something on a sign that says, oh, well, this particular select board supports this particular sign, when we have taken time in our community to look at policing policy. We have in our community policies, fair and impartial policing that's been worked on. We have scrutiny and questioning around the kind of police force that we want to have. Other things that I wrote down previously, but I just think that, you know, if this is a sign, if you know, if Mary wants a sign and she is as able to come and speak and ask for what she wants as any of us. Thankfully, we still have the freedom of speech in our community. But if there's going to be a sign on the front of our town, then it needs to reflect perhaps public policy. Is Richmond going to take on the project of, you know, sex education and contraceptive counseling? Is Richmond going to take on all of the reasons why people might choose to terminate a pregnancy, like domestic violence and inability to, care for, pay for, foster children? I don't think our town is looking to do that. But we have made a statement that we want to back that Black, and I would even say Black and brown lives matter, and that all are welcome here. Thank you.
I mean, Chandler, do you want to go next?
Mine was just gonna follow up on the suggestion about the current sign and the idea of, sorry, Angela Cote. That maybe at the bottom of the sign, the way it's displayed, that you could have approved by the select board on whatever date the vote was taken. That just lets, like Kara was saying, people would know that this is something that you all, and as your political speech, which is what you have. I don't want, I disagree. And as a public school educator who proudly has that same sign on my whiteboard in my classroom, I feel that's a place where I'm able to let the average minor in my classroom know that it's a safe classroom. But as an adult, on the front of public building space that is the community space, it almost seems, and again, as someone who has that flag displayed in my classroom, it doesn't feel appropriate when we've got all these other public ways in which we let our community and the outer community know that we are an inclusive community, that we are thoughtful about our policing practices, that we have committees to review this, that we have our select board voting on all of these signs and where they go. I'd rather have people know they came to Richmond at each of the entrances to the town, not just the village.
Okay.
So I do think that that's political speech.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Patty? Oh, I'm sorry.
Jay, just a comment. I realize, if I looked at I'm not attempting to be, as my grandfather might have said, ironical, but the item B as warned is a review of a request for the abortion stops a beating heart sign, and we're a little off topic. I think it would be proper for us to contemplate this other modification of signage out front as a duly warned agenda item at a future agenda.
Okay, I think that's a good point. Patty, you've got your hand up. You've been waiting patiently, and then we may want to move on. Go ahead, though.
Well, I was going to respond to the Black Lives Matter sign that says Black Lives Matter, and I think Bonnie's got a good point. It should be probably Black and Brown lives. This movement didn't happen because George Floyd was murdered. When the Richmond Racial Equity got together, we decided to do some research on racism in Vermont, and it's pretty bad, and it still is. We've got the Vermont Racial Equity and Sentencing report that Governor Scott and the legislature commissioned that said when similarly situated Black and white defendants are compared, there's a statistically significant disparities in who receives an incarceration sentence. We've just recently, there's a lot more in that report. Recently, about a month or two ago, Stephanie Soborno, a professor at the University of Vermont with a bunch of very scholarly people, redid her research of 5 years ago to see what's the state of Vermont in terms of the way that she looked at this was traffic stops. Are Black people stopped more frequently and than white people, and are they searched? And during the pandemic and after George Floyd, those trends went down and they were almost kind of equal. And now those trends are alarmingly high again. So we definitely have some big problems in Vermont. And the sign, I guess, from my point of view, should stay until we have proof that Black and Brown lives do matter in the state of Vermont, and they actually don't. And I'm happy to share my data and statistics and lots of research that's been done.
Okay, Patty, thank you. And to Bard's point, this is a worthy discussion worth having, but it probably would be, since it was not warned as a discussion of sign policy in general, it would be for the best if this was brought back at a future meeting. The request before us was a abortion stops a beating heart sign. And is there any member of the select board who would like to make such a motion that we put one up?
No, I'd like to make a comment though. And Mary, one of the things that you'd said is that, you wish that we would be clear with an answer and actually acknowledge the request to put up the sign. And so in that light, I do want to say that I do not support putting up a abortion stops a beating heart sign. And that reason that I don't support it is because I know a lot of women in this community who have gone through really difficult times trying to get pregnant and having to go through miscarriages, and often miscarriages result in abortion procedures. And without those procedures, you're putting due harm onto the women who have to wait for those to naturally finalize themselves. And so as someone who has been directly affected by that and friends who have also been affected by that, I do not support this sign. I would not feel safe in this community if that sign was up on the wall.
My sister was raped and impregnated, and she went through an abortion. She regrets having to go through the whole procedure. Even more so, she regrets being raped. But abortion stops a beating heart, just 5 words.
Understand. We all have our own
It's
choices.
not blue, it's not black, it's not brown. It covers everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you all for your points of view, and we will bring this back up on a future agenda on the idea of a sign policy in general. I do see Martha's hand up, but as I just said before her hand went up, we do need to move on. Martha, thank you for your interest in speaking, and also Jeanne Adams. We may have this, Jeannie Adams, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm not wearing my glasses.
no, you're right.
Okay, Ms. Adams. But we will bring this topic back up at a future agenda. Moving on to our next item on the agenda. This likely will be quick. Tess, I imagine you want to speak to that?
Jeannie
Jeannie?
Agnew.
Oh, Jeannie's gonna speak to it, okay. We have an item on the agenda to wit, consideration of applying for USA Pickleball Grow the Game grant for pickleball equipment. This grant will pay for 24 wooden paddles, 100 pickleballs, and 1 portable net. The Richmond Free Library has agreed to lend out the materials if we are awarded. They did the same with snowshoes. There are no matching funds needed for this grant. So Jeannie, did you want to speak to this?
No, that's, that's basically it. It's the USA Pickleball Corporation. They had, we're applying for the smallest bundle. They have the dink bundle, the drop bundle, the drive bundle, and the campus bundle. So 24 wooden paddles would be more than enough to just give some material to the community, people who do not have the equipment but would like to try the game.
Okay, thank you, Jeannie. Any questions for the select?
I move to apply for the USA Pickleball Grow the Game grant and to appoint town manager Josh Arneson as the grant manager.
Is it Bart? I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion made by, what's your name again? By Adam
Wood.
And seconded by Bard. Sorry, I
Just
just,
saying something sarcastic today and I just couldn't do it.
yeah. To move to apply for the USA Pickleball Grow the Game grant and to appoint town manager Josh Arneson as the grant manager. There is no matching funding for this, so this is not a town outlay. I'm not seeing any hands going up, so let's go ahead and state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, aye.
Bart, aye.
David, I. Adam, I.
And Jay, aye. We're going to skip over the next item as stated earlier, against a future official recommendation properly warned from the Conservation Fund. And we're going to go right on to another Conservation Reserve Fund item, namely to partially fund a land acquisition by the Richmond Land Trust. Do we have anybody here to speak up regarding this issue?
Yeah, that would be me. Lou Borey can't make it and neither can Wright, so I'm gonna do my best to represent them. So the Richmond Land Trust is requesting 7,500 from the Conservation Reserve Fund to purchase an 11.2 acre parcel of land. Whoops.
Just one sec. Bard?
So again, I don't mean to be ironical, but before we begin, was this topic would have been discussed at the Conservation Commission? Yes, leading to a recommendation to use funds?
Yep.
Yeah, and it was
how it was warned?
warned significantly differently than the other one.
And it really is just a point of order when you say, okay, that was sort of an example where it was done maybe properly.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
but like I said, the 3-park proposal was a kind of moving target because
No, that's
things
fine.
kept changing.
I'm not trying to
Right.
drag you back into that. I just want to confirm that this one was treated, might I say, appropriately or something.
Sounds like it was. Okay, Judy, I apologize for having to say Judy,
No
Judy.
problem. Let me just restart, moving right along. So the Richmond Land Trust requests 7,500 from the Conservation Reserve Fund to purchase an 11.2 acre parcel on the Winooski River floodplain east of the village on the north side of the river. And this parcel contains a really majestic silver maple ostrich fern forest, which used to be a common natural community along the Winooski River. The RLT also owns the Beacon River Shore trails that are another beautiful example of that community. And much of that has been lost through conversion to agriculture because it's a, those are rich alluvial soils. And also, I think, because of fiddlehead harvesting. Anyway, the RLT is going to put in some money, and they're also applying to the Nature Conservancy for some additional money. The total cost of the project, which they're not asking for from the CRF, is I lost it, but I think it's yes, it's 21,700. So, thank you for doing that. Right, and this parcel is only at this time accessible from the river because on the north, obviously, you'd have to cross the highway and the railroad tracks, and it's private property on the west side. And then it's up against the railroad tracks on the east, if I have my map directions, correct. And so this meets a great number of Conservation Commission Conservation Reserve Fund criteria. It's also a really critical piece of wildlife movement corridor along the river. So we have been making an effort to try to conserve that type of land. And it's very good wildlife habitat. It provides ecosystem services like floodplain river storage. And it also allows people to recreate there, and it can be useful for educational purposes and riparian access. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Bird?
A question, because I appreciate it's really only approachable or accessible from the river or through the river. Is there any way somebody would know that it's no longer private property or care maybe that, oh, you're now allowed to walk around on this?
I assume Richmond Land Trust will post signs, which they have at their other properties.
Okay, any questions from the community? Kara?
I'm actually gonna come look for this.
Sorry, couldn't hear that.
Kara's coming up.
Oh, great. Hi, Kara.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
So are you representing the land trusts or the conservation committee?
Because Lou and Wright couldn't make it, I offered to try to represent their application. So both.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure which hat you were wearing so I knew if you were to answer the questions or not. So thank you. I'm going to be very clear with the select board. I do not support this use of the conservation fund. It is land that's in either the floodway or the floodplain. It hasn't been clearly stated which it is. This is never going to be allowed to be developed. It can be the Richmond Land Trust has the ability to fundraise these funds that doesn't need to come out of the town of Richmond's coffers. As a member of the town center committee who has the Breadloaf Town Center assessment summary from 2019 that I printed off, that the minimum you need to spend on this building is $1.5 million. And the select board knows that they just had a town vote for 9.8 million that did not pass. So the town knows that you need to save some of your reserves to help on this building. This building does qualify for using conservation funds. I'm begging you to stop giving away taxpayer dollars. This is a giveaway. This is $7,500 that you're giving, whether it's a conservation group, whether it's a nonprofit, whatever it is, this land is being conserved. This land can never be developed because of our regulations. So for us to give $7,500, we're like the piggy bank for the land trust. We gave money from the Bombardier Field and we gave the money away. So we have no rights to the Bombardier Field to put in those 5 parking spaces that they originally were part of their whole process that they got the funding from us for. So my point is you're giving away the ability to post signs or not post signs, whether you're allowed to have signs in the floodway or the floodplain. That's a good question too. So I am very concerned. Do we have a balance of what's in the conservation fund right now?
$334,000.
$334,000.
And we're in 34 and $92, yeah.
So I'm just saying, I really hope the select board will deny this application. The land trust has the ability to fundraise. They could do one fundraising event in the Monitor Barns and they could raise tens of thousands of dollars. People really truly believe in this. They could do a GoFundMe tomorrow and could have all the money they need. But the common person in our community who's having problems paying their own property taxes or who has to decide if they're buying groceries or paying their rent shouldn't be burdened by giving away money. This building, look around you, see these brown spots on the ceiling? This building needs, see the walls that haven't been painted, that have had patch jobs done to them? This building needs work, and I'm begging you to stop giving away the taxpayer dollars to only have to go to them and ask them for a bond vote. I support conservation. I've had
many acres in our family that really loves conservation. I'm not opposed to that. I'm just begging you to learn how to spend your money on the necessities first, please.
Okay, thank you, Bart.
If I could, I sort of two follow-up questions, which are kind of related to what Ms. LeBounty just said. Substantively, what changes with this parcel when it moves from private ownership to RLT ownership? What changes in terms of the land, the use, the development, the preservation? If you can't do anything with it already, what, if you could describe the benefit of purchasing and make it formally, now it's protected or preserved?
I think that's a question for you, Judy.
Yes.
Yeah, so I know that, you know, for example, the Beacon trails are a very popular trail and they're in the floodplain and they have signage and they have trails. So by development, if you mean housing, I don't know if that parcel can support housing or not, but the adjacent parcel, I believe, has a house. And although we could check that. But certainly the RLT is planning to put trails in and make it publicly accessible as a recreation and education site, as they have with other similar parcels. So, you know, I agree with Kara that the Conservation Reserve Fund does have historic preservation as one of their four main items for usage. But I feel like this is a disappearing natural community in a very major wildlife movement corridor that is worthy of preservation. And that's really what the Conservation Reserve Fund, you know, its primary purpose is for conservation uses. So, and I don't know how the RLT feels about this. I regret that they're not here to represent their application.
Okay, Mary.
Hi, thank you, Mary Gould. I'm not sure if that parcel is an island or not, but there can be no development. And if there is a house that is close to it, it is at an elevation that is hundreds of feet above flood stage. But I just think it's laughable to suggest that the Richmond Land Trust is going to put trails on it. They don't even mow the damn trail beside my house, even though they only have an easement to it. They own the land along the River Shore Trail that George Safford gave to them. So to suggest that anything would happen there and that they put trails on is just a joke. And related to something that Ms. Labanti brought up, the Bombardier parcel, I may have been on the select board when this was purchased. I think the purchase price was $144,000. $86,000 came from the town coffers. And at the time I asked, could the town become a participant? Like, could we be the third joker on the deed, like the Richmond Land Trust and the Conservation Housing Board and us? Oh, no, it's against our rules. They'll hold their hand out for the $86,000, but they won't let us have partial ownership. And after that, I said, well, after you've purchased it, can we use it for picnics or community gardens? Oh, no, the farmer's going to use it. Well, that's flown in the face too. There are neither trails on there, which is one of the things that they may have promised, and there's certainly no parking. Thank you.
Members of the select board, any comment? Anybody interested in making a motion?
I would say, like, broadly, I'm hugely in favor of conservation, but looking at the flood map, this whole parcel is squarely in the floodway, not even the floodplain. And so I just don't, like, I agree with Kara, I don't see the benefit, like, nothing can be built here. Short of like a footpath that is not, doesn't require any excavation. So basically like people stomping on the plants to establish a path. So I'm having a hard time seeing how the town throwing money towards this is actually a net benefit when nothing can be done with it. I don't think that there isn't a potential benefit. I just don't see what it is. So
I was just doing the same thing, looking at the zoning maps and the floodway and pondering. And maybe it's even the special flood hazard area. I'm having trouble telling the colors. But maybe the proper thing to do, since Richmond Land Trust isn't here, you can invite them back and state their case. Like, explain to us what the benefit is of preserving this.
Could I respond to that?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So conservation, I hear you talking about that it can't be built on, but conservation isn't necessarily about building structures. And the Stafford Preserve does have a trail, FYI. And the Richmond Land Trust representative said they would put trails in, and it's also accessible from the river, so boaters can use the land as is. So I'm not sure why it needs to be a buildable piece of property. I just wanted to check in about that.
I think the question is broader. So what's different or beneficial of having it under the land trust versus this sort of isolated, waterlocked, so to speak, piece of property?
What's the benefit?
What's the benefit to the town, to the taxpayer of spending money on it to preserve it versus just let it sit there? And I
Well-
don't mean that it's a rhetorical question. I think that's a question for both you and perhaps the land trust. Does that make sense?
Sure. So you're saying if it's just left there, it would be just fine, but I feel that if it had was owned by a responsible organization, then it's conserved, like it won't be used for something else. And I don't know, I'm not familiar with the rules and regulations about that particular parcel, but I always feel that it's best to have wildlands under someone's authority, so that, for example, if people are going in and pulling out lots of fiddlehead ferns, that can be managed wisely, so the resource is shared but not overused. That's one example. Or that people can access the land and they're not trespassing. They're welcome to go use that as a swimming beach.
Okay, Angela?
Right.
Angela Cote, I just wanted to clarify. I have absolutely no problem with the Richmond Land Trust owning this 11+ acre parcel and holding it in perpetuity with their stewardship and maintaining the silviculture that's going on and the ferns and stuff like that. That's an absolutely phenomenal use of conservation. I'm opposed to the town paying for half of the parcel. There's no
third?
The town, the nonprofit organization that is the Richmond Land Trust, can find another funding mechanism, and that's really all you're voting on. Not what to do with it, not whether or not they can develop it, and certainly not even if it's in the floodplain. It's whether or not you want the town's money to pay for half of it for another entity to own it.
It's not half, it's a third, and the public will have access to it. So if the public has access and requires management, then it seems like a one-time investment of a small amount of money is actually a great deal for an additional place to swim or hike or look at this beautiful forest.
Is there a member of the select board who would like to move this purchase? Okay, the select board does not seem inclined to take any action on this purchase, so that's essentially a no. Kara, did you want to add anything before we move on?
I just want to say, if this is, you have the public here to hear your public comments. I'm concerned if you are going to, I think you should actually take a vote to deny this request, because then we're gonna have to watch your agenda again to see when it comes up again. And it's not really fair for those of us who actually went by your warning and participated tonight. So I request that the select board consider, I'm making a request to the select board, that you consider denying the request to the Richmond Land Trust to fund this parcel.
Kara, requests like that come up from time to time, and it's always pointed out that we can't constrain the actions of a future select board. The select board could easily vote at a future meeting to reverse that, so it really counts.
Know where you stand.
Well, you know where we stand right now.
I would say that I would consider this strongly if there was a specific plan for access put in place and an explanation of specifically what additional benefit to the town, not from access, but from a conservation standpoint, would be realized by this outlay. Not saying that I would grant the request or vote to grant it, but I would strongly reconsider. But right now, it seems like most of the conservation heavy lifting is done by the mere fact that it's in a floodway, and there doesn't, one of the drawbacks of this parcel why it's being bought so cheap is there is no access. So Those would be the two things that I would want to see to reconsider.
Okay, David.
I don't feel I have enough information to comfortably vote either way on this. I would like to see the land trust at the table so we can have an open discussion about what the gain is, what the benefit is. So I would like to invite the land trust to come and speak to this at a future meeting.
Okay, I think that makes sense. Since they weren't here tonight, we really need answers we can't get.
So that's my suggestion, and under, if I understand correctly, Robert's Rules of Order, the failure to move a motion is equivalent to denying the request.
No,
Voting no. The absence of yeses is a no. But it also is awkward to make the decision without Richmond Land Trust, which is why I'm supporting David's. Like, come back again, you weren't even here to explain what you think the benefits were as the eventual owner of the property. And that is truly an accident of scheduling, it seems. But so then it's just an awkward moment to consider somebody's application without the applicant present to answer questions.
Okay, so one last comment and then we're gonna move on.
It's not that Barb, and the only question I have is for Adam, based on his comment. Access, do you mean limited access only for water, or do you mean inclusive access so that all could access it?
I guess I hadn't thought that far into it. I would like to see what the proposals are and kind of weigh it at that point. So I mean, I guess I would love to know what the options are before they consider.
I think it's tabula rasa, it's a blank slate.
Yeah.
Tell us what the benefits are.
Yep.
And we will be persuaded or not.
Okay. We're gonna move on to our next topic. And I'm sure this one is highly controversial. It is a
Thank you.
consideration. Thank you,
Thank
Chief,
you.
for coming. I apologize. I should have thanked you. Consideration of a request to close Baker Street on September 6, 2025 for a block vote. This sounds fairly innocuous, but is there anybody here who wants to speak to that? Melissa?
It's a really nice block party. It's a great time to see people that you don't usually see all year. It's a potluck. The kids have a little parade. It's like quintessential Vermont. It should be in a movie.
You know, MMCTV should come with a camera, but we can film it.
Actually, that's not a bad suggestion.
I'll talk to the president of the board and see if he can.
Jay, this is Bard. I would like to move to close Baker Street from 3:38 PM on Saturday, September 6th, 2025 for a block party with a rain date of Saturday, September 13th, 2025.
Jay, this is David. I'll second.
We have a motion made by Bart Hill, seconded by David Sander, to close Baker Street from 3:30 to 8 PM on Saturday, September 6th, 2025 for a block party with a rain date of Saturday, September 13th, 2025. All right, is there any further discussion?
It's the day after my 35th birthday.
It is the day after David's 35th birthday.
You're invited.
He's invited. Okay, seeing no further discussion, please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bard, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
And Jay, aye. Thank you. Our next item. Those of you who are physically here tonight can't help but have noticed that our doors from the parking lot are a little banged up. Now, there's no truth to the rumor that this was caused by Denise slamming the doors really mad one night. But we're not saying it didn't. The doors are damaged and we have 2 bids for the project to replace the doors. Now, this is made slightly more complicated because there's really 2 projects both involved here. One of them is our new access control system that we put that out to bid?
Yeah, that was actually completed prior to the door being going out.
Okay, so some people have asked about why are we getting a new access system? Keys intrinsically are a poor way in the 21st century to control access to public building because keys can be duplicated even though they often say don't. People will still do that. And no one knows who has a key.
And they're not trackable and they don't talk.
They're not trackable, they don't talk. We don't know who used a key to get in. So the new system that we're going to be contemplating and getting in will be based on button codes, correct?
I think it's.
Badges? The access cards. Access cards or phones, and that means not only will we be able to know who came in, but also we can control what parts of the building they can access, which from a liability point of view makes all kinds of sense. So the project for the new doors needs to be compatible with that. And so our owner's representative, Jay Labari, has reviewed the bids and made a recommendation. He recommends Portland glass as they include a power supply and a 10-wire EPT, which interfaces with an access control system, which Acme did not include. He also recommends including a 25% contingency to cover unforeseen conditions of the building, which may complicate the installation of the doors. The current balance of the Town Center Reserve Fund is $353,086. And what was the total amount of the bid?
$23,872.
$23,872 to replace the doors in a way that makes them compatible with the new access control system. Any questions, comments, concerns, ideas from the board?
Jay, first of all, I want to say I am in favor of replacing the doors,
Okay.
but I can't, and I've read through this quote, I can't for the life of me understand how it costs $23,872 to replace 2 doors. That's a quarter of what my first house cost. Can somebody just explain this to me?
The 2 quotes, the other quote came in 2 parts. It was like 21,000 and 10,000. So they were at 31,000 for all the pieces for the doors. So I would say that based on the fact we got 2 quotes from 2 door companies, that 23,000 seems to be about the going rate.
Adam, you know far more about this than I do. Thoughts?
If you have any more of those houses, I would gladly buy 3 to 5. Yeah, that's what it's.
I will say I sold it for 178 6 years later. I'm just
That's
saying.
the storefront door to cost now, like it's in the neighborhood of like, it's tens of thousands of dollars, depending on what you want. I guess my only concern would be having worked with both these companies for these prices. There is no part of me that wouldn't ask Acme to include the proper stuff and go with them instead. Based on previous direct
I'm sorry, I didn't
experience.
hear what you said.
Based on like experience with both these companies, doing this, not identical work, doing storefront glass, not doors specifically, I would use Acme hands down every time, even if they were significantly more money. I would be less concerned about there being a contingency money with Acme's price. With Portland, I would carry the 25% and count on it.
So the contingency was more for any like unforeseen things like the building.
Okay.
Right? Like they get in there, something's
Yeah.
rotting, something doesn't fit right. And I think you look at Acme actually, and I know I couldn't remember that it didn't include it, but the additional, I'll share this. I think this might actually.
I don't know.
So I
Acme
think
products.
the difference is,
The way
that is including the,
Well, the way Acme bid it was funny because they had like a 20,000, they had 20,949, and then they would said to add the electrified panels, EPT, power supply, it's an additional 10,000. So you're looking at $31,000 to go with Acme. There might be 1 or 2 things we don't have in this quote too. That would cause it to go higher, but if the board wants to go with Acme, even though it's higher, you certainly do that.
Bird?
I sorry to say that, both of these bids say the pricing is now invalid based on the dates.
Well, if we went back to them and asked for more, we would have to deal with that, I think.
Well, it says pricing valid, this is Portland, pricing valid until 6/23/25, and Acme Glass says it's in here somewhere,
30 days.
30 days after May. Yeah, that expired June 22nd. So just as a procedural matter, I'm not sure either one of these bids is still valid.
Well, I suppose if you approved one and we went back to them and we said, no, the price goes up, we would have to come back for a price increase. A lot of times they will still hold it,
Or a rebid.
or we have to go out to a rebid.
I have such a suggestion, given the dates. Why don't we go back to both of them and say, we understand your bids are outdated. Could you give us bids that are current, based on current supply? And I raise this thoughtfully also, given the potential impact of tariffs and other cost factors that they were not aware of perhaps in May.
I can make sure the bids are still valid, and so does that.
Okay, Karen?
Can I just ask, is this for both sets of double doors?
Yep.
So it's not just the entrance doors, it's the next set of double glass doors as
Yeah.
well. So it's really technically more than just one set. I just wanted to make sure.
When I said 2 doors, I meant 2 sets.
Okay, beautiful. I just want to make sure that we're not skipping the other one.
Oh,
They're
no.
both just as bad. Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, we can make sure there's bids are still valid. I can follow up with Acme on the EPT as well to make sure there's nothing we were overlooking.
Can I ask a question? So I just want clarification, I guess, or a question. So Josh, if the bids, if they'll still do the project for the amount, are you voting in the affirmative for that?
We haven't, but it looks like we're about to.
Okay, because I'm just saying, with winter coming and to get on somebody's schedule now, is the project even gonna be done before winter?
But the beauty of it being on either side of the vestibule is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if the weather is inclement, there's still a barrier.
Right.
I mean, once
That
they,
don't
once
be
they
for
order,
another 2 weeks,
the longest part's gonna
We
be
meet
order,
tomorrow.
ordering all the stuff. Like, once the stuff shows up, it won't take them long to
but
do.
it's not warned properly.
When does that stop us?
Aaron, go ahead.
Hey, I was just wondering, so you put in fancy doors on the side, but then couldn't someone with a key just walk in the front door? The street door?
I mean, fancy locks, I think that's also on the proposal to have a lock on that.
It is.
To update the lock at the front door too? So it's
Yeah.
actually another door location. Are there any other door locations? Like, I feel like the post office goes into the vestibule.
Okay, hold on, Aaron. There's 2 separate things we're looking at. The proposal tonight is to replace the doors that are in the entry from the parking lot side, both sets. The lock proposal has already been voted on and approved by the select board, and that's to upgrade the locks on all exterior doors and office doors.
Okay, thanks.
Stupid question, but will those, it's not the same thing, but, have we looked into, and this is probably a Kara question. What are we looking at doing about securing the ground floor windows?
Not about windows, only with other doors.
I mean, if someone wanted to kick in your window.
A little higher, they could use a ladder to get in there. So it would be easier to climb the fire escape up to this level and come in because the ladder is still 20 feet away from my.
They could drive a Tesla through the doors.
I mean, you could, I think that there's ways to.
$23,000.
I think no matter what, there's ways to break it, right?
Okay.
I think that the key codes give us, better understanding of who's in at any time, because I think
Yes.
right now there are people that have keys. Because they were on a committee 10 years ago and they just never turned their key in. And this would allow us to shut that person off. Honestly.
Yeah, Karen?
I strongly recommend if you guys can move forward with at least a minimum amount to approve so that you can, and if Adam has a strong feeling and an inclination on which company has been historically productive in getting the product and installing it properly, then I'd lean in that direction as well, but I would recommend that you make a decision tonight because the lead time in getting what we need, if there's a problem with the installation, all of those pieces of puzzle, I agree with Denise, we need to do it now.
Okay, is there any interest in making a motion? Or are we going to tell Josh to go back and get fresh bids or?
I have an interest in making a motion, but I'm reading the motion and realizing that it needs a
You wanna
little.
go with Acme?
Yeah, I think that it just based
It
on,
is, it's 30% more. I know that if I was, I wouldn't speak for the whole town, if I was doing this and recommending to a client, I would say that spend 30% more and you can call the owner, one of the 2 owners, like on their cell phone to come fix it. You're not calling a national company that has like a franchise, like there are benefits here that are like not directly tangible in the bid, and that's why I would go that way, but it is an extra $8,000. So, I don't know.
So the total for Acme is $30,907. We add the 2 pieces together.
And you're saying that, Adam, if it went with Portland for the just shy of 24 plus a 25% contingency fee, you are 99% sure we wind up spending that contingency fee.
I think that, let me rephrase that. I think that at some point in the service life of this door, we'll have to pay Portland to come back and do stuff that Acme would likely do for free. And it would take them longer to do it and be a nightmare getting someone on the phone.
Jay, if I could, Adam, is there anything in the exclusions list from
comparable.
Portland that gets your attention?
They're both pretty comparable.
Okay.
What's the total again for Acme?
$30,907.
All right, I move to approve Acme Glass as the vendor to install new entry doors on the parking lot side of the town center at a cost of 30, should we say a cost not to exceed 30,907?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is David. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Caitlin Falcon, seconded by David Sander, to approve Acme Glass as a vendor to install new entry doors on the parking lot side of the town center at a cost of
$30,907.
$30,907 to come from the town center reserve fund.
with funds to come from the town center reserve fund. Any further comments?
I just want to say that, growing up in the 70s and watching Looney Tunes, I hope these doors hold up better than the Acme products did on the
We do have a
commercials.
problem with Acme of big coyotes. Okay,
Well,
please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bard, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
And J.I. Okay, next. Update on, actually, let me check. I know we moved the Tesla thing up. Are we at that point?
Yeah, that's after.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, update on requests for proposals for town center property management services and town center organizational project manager. I'm going to ask you to speak to that.
So this is something that the town center committee's been working on for a little while. They want to go into RFP for a property management services, which would perform non-capital routine maintenance and other non-capital maintenance as needed by either themselves or by hiring specialty contractors. And also hire an organizational project manager. And this person or company would facilitate a plan for capital projects to update or upgrade the town center building. On Friday of last week, we received a couple of draft RFPs from the person on the committee who was working on this. Duncan's going to take that, put that into a structure that we usually have for RFPs and get that out to bid, and then come back to the select board for discussion on the results.
Do we have an estimated time frame, Josh? Is this like days, weeks, months?
I imagine we could probably get it out within the next week or so, and then, like, I'm not sure how long I'll have to give for a return. Probably a month, people to put together proposals, so early September, maybe.
Okay, Karen, sorry.
Process, the request would be that the RFPs go through the town center committee first, and that we review the RFPs and then make a recommendation to the select board on who to select for both of the RFPs. And just to speak to the maintenance RFP, just to let you know, is your town staff doesn't have the ability to manage maintenance of the building at the level that you need to do to get caught up on some maintenance that's not been done in many, many years. And it's just it's too much stress on the town staff to do that. So we respect that and we want to free their time up to do other things. And we believe that your maintenance line item in your budget should be used to help accomplish this through that maintenance individual who would actually do some work as well as manage like the professionals that you have to bring in, because you have to have like the plumber and the electrician, things like that. So there was two different RFPs, that was one. And now I just wanted to make sure that you realize we were really trying, Duncan's tried to help as much as he can. But, we went through budget season, we went through all these other things and some stuff. Trying to get stuff done.
When you say the RFP should come back to the committee, you mean the bid should come back, right? You're fine with the way the RFP.
guess so.
I mean, the
I would
bid,
call them proposals. Sorry, I would call them proposals because we're not gonna get like a firm bid, but like proposals we would pay.
So this should be maybe more of a request for qualifications with cost structure. That's what we've done when we've had other professional services in the past.
I guess I'm indifferent on the wording. I think it,
I mean,
yeah.
I think the DRP itself asks for sort of like a schedule of prices, right? Like what's your hourly rate, how long it'll take to do some of these things, but like, they're all sort of ongoing.
Yeah, I think, yeah, so I guess the total cost would be less defined, but there we would still obviously want a cost of an hourly rate. Estimated or a number of hours proposed per month, week, et cetera, whatever. So it's kind of somewhere in between. So I think either one, whichever one you or Duncan are more comfortable with, as long as it's comparable to all the people. As long as the same form is used for all
And I think that the RFPs as written do talk about, provide history of your qualifications, what would your cost be? So they'll all have the same thing to respond to, but you don't need to review that wording again, you're just looking to.
No, we're looking at the actual proposals that come in.
Yep, okay, that's fair. Okay.
Okay, anything further on this agenda item?
Mike's here too from the committee, so I just want to make sure if he wanted to add anything.
Yeah, the only thing I'm Mike Stores, I'm also on the downstairs building committee. The only thing I'd like to add, as we are having some, as you probably know from the next agenda item, some changes in personnel on our committee that you are contemplating adding someone to fill a empty spot, and then unfortunately Adam's bailing out on us. So we still have an extra open slot, so you know, I'm wondering if maybe we should delay some of this a bit to get new people involved and see what their thoughts are on some of this.
I don't want to tell, as having resigned, I don't want to tell them, you guys what to do, but I would think that with the amount of time it's going to take to get these back, that you can probably get the people involved by the
Yeah.
time they come back. I think it's
Okay.
going to be, this isn't like.
So we aren't accepting anything, we're just gonna.
No,
get-
exactly.
get
I think
something
it's not
back.
gonna be as fast as like the bid process for the doors was, because it's not like. These aren't people who are like estimating things all day, so I think it could take 30 or 60 days for people to even get something back. So by the time Duncan gets stuff together, it gets sent out, it could be 60 or 90 days to get something back. So I would say get it going.
I'm hoping what's your deadline? How long are you posting a RFP for?
I was
What's this-
thinking at least 30 days.
So 45 days. probably.
Yeah.
Some time.
Okay, still, that's a month and a half, so. And then they can always sit, you guys can decide not to do anything with them.
Right.
Before we move on to our next agenda item, I just would like to announce that the Amtrak train is 3 hours behind schedule tonight. There was a problem with an earlier locomotive malfunction causing speed restrictions and rail congestion. Do you need a hug?
It hasn't even hit Brattleboro yet.
So it's gonna hit me as I'm riding my bike home.
I just want to make sure on the last item, so you don't have to approve the RFPs going out. Is that correct? I just want to make sure you didn't have to make any motion. It's just what you do. Okay.
They need to approve
When it comes back in.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that we didn't miss something,
No, but-
all that warning items,
Right.
voting and all of
And
that.
it's also good to bring up to the board in case there's a major objection, like, no, we don't
Yeah.
need this, then we won't waste our time. But
Perfect.
no, there's no motion need to be made.
Thank you so much.
Okay, our next item is related. It's consideration of filling the vacant seat on the Town Center Committee, which has been reserved for a select board member.
Oh, yeah, so I emailed the committee, I have some various stuff that's taken up a lot of my time, and I haven't been able to dedicate as much time to it as a project and committee warrants. And then add on top of that, some other stuff that we have, be working on with the next agenda item. Or I guess 2 agenda items later with the fire department. It's gonna take up a lot of my time, and I'm trying to manage that actively instead of extending myself. So I have resigned. I do think that it would be good to have representation, but I also know that, the committee's, my take on it is committees struggle with all the, I would say constraints that are being put in place slowly every tax season, so that's really ahead. And they're paddling upstream, I think, too. So I think anyone that's gonna get involved should know that they're gonna be in for it's gonna be a challenging thing to tackle.
Okay, so this committee has a total of 5 seats, of which 3 are filled by community members, and there are 2 that are designated for select board members. We had another vacant seat that was most recently filled by Lisa Miller when she was on the select board. So Adam's resignation leaves both select board seats open. There are various options. We could appoint 1 or 2 more members of the select board to fill those seats. We could vote to change the 2 seats reserved for select board members to seats that could be filled by any resident and ask for volunteers for the committee. Thoughts?
Adam, I guess I'll direct this to you as the former select board member. moving forward, the property management services and a project manager, doesn't it kind of shift the terrain for the committee? That you'll have people that are managing things?
The goal was not to do that. The goal was to offload the kind of day-to-day or week-to-week, month-to-month stuff. I guess anything that would
Yeah,
maintain the integrity of this building as it sits, or incrementally upgrade it, within the confines of not changing the function, would be offloaded to a property manager. And then the other proposal was to get a kind of owner's project manager to help guide the committee through the constraints and decision-making process around really what to do. Kind of wrangling with the idea that large scale remodel was probably not going to happen in the capacity that was originally proposed, obviously. So there's kind of, I think that was the goal, was to help get some guidance and some expertise in on that discussion, but the committee members can talk to that.
Yeah.
Too.
I think it's important for what I'm interpreting what Adam was saying about the uphill battle is whatever you want to call it. Is more the funding sources, okay? The restrictions of funding, not the restrictions of the committee not being able to move things forward and that
Right.
kind of thing. So yes, the answer to your question is yes, it will alleviate some of the pressure on the committee by having some experts, first of all, take care of the day-to-day maintenance and be aware of that and potentially even report back to the committee and inform us instead of having to have the town staff do that. So it's taking pressure off the committee and pressure off the town staff by the maintenance person. So I see light with that issue at the end of the tunnel, and then bringing in the owner's project manager was to help guide us in the major infrastructure long-term capital improvements that we need to make, and not going after potentially a $9.8 million bond, but seeing what can happen potentially in phases and how we do that. So I think I'm looking forward to, if we get those RFPs in, some technical guidance with you know, what comes first in the process. How does that look? While the maintenance person is making sure the doors are locking, the toilets are flushing, you know, the lights, the electricity is working and taking care of. We had a list in the very beginning, way back almost a year ago, that we came up with many items that have not been ticked off that list because they can't be managed. And it's not the committee's job to manage the maintenance. So I'm looking forward to that. I welcome, and I think Mike welcomes a select board, but we really would like a select board, minimum one select board member to participate, ideally two. Because you have the knowledge of everything else going on your plate, and you can maybe help guide us with, oh, by the way, the conservation fund is going to be completely used by something else, so we can't use that as a resource. The library needs another $100,000 out of the reserve fund, so we're not going to lose, we're going to have that. You know, you guys have knowledge that we might not have as committee members. So I'm really, Mike, I don't know if I'm speaking for you, but I'm begging you, somebody come on to the committee.
No, I definitely agree that I would really, as you said, we would like to have at least one select board member participating with us, so we have that connection. And as far as the owner's project manager,
For me to volunteer, I'm not gonna volunteer, I just resigned.
This guy's a perfect
Sorry,
resume.
Mike.
I said, as far as the owner's project manager, I do think that we need some technical advice from someone that's been through some projects similar to this. I've looked a bit at what Black River proposed in the $9.8 million one, and the flood mitigation part of it, to me, none of us liked what they proposed in the beginning, but we were told that that's what we had to do to meet the FEMA requirements. I've taken a bit of a dive into the FEMA requirements. And it appears that not only do they not require it, they do not even allow what they had proposed. As far as I can see, the FEMA requirements specifically says that you cannot wet flood proof a basement. And that's exactly what they have proposed to do in Black River. So that's my reading of it, and maybe I'm wrong, but it's enough that we really need to have somebody that understands those regulations to take another look at it. It says right, it lists right in the regulation that what floodproofing can be used for storage or parking, access to the building for areas other than a basement. And in the part, in a different document, a technical bulletin on wet floodproofing, it defines a basement as a area of a building whose floor is below the ground level on all sides. And then it goes on to say that the National Flood Insurance Program does not allow a basement in any flood-proof area unless it's dry flood-proof. So that tells me what they propose would not even have met the FEMA requirements. So we need somebody to take another look at that. And I think, and what we had one participant, our Hugo, that Matt had, the other member on our committee had worked with before, and worked for a company called Campbell's Development Group. And I think he'll be one of the bidders on this. And he came in and he said he didn't think that Black River or anyone else working on the project had very much experienced working with flood issues. But he knew people that did. I believe he worked with Waterbury when they were doing some of theirs and so forth. So we'd like to have somebody with some experience that understands those regulations and take another look. And if they make it, again, I'm an amateur at this. I maybe have missed something, but it certainly, I've seen enough to say I want somebody that knows what they're doing to take another look at it. And I think that's one of the big reasons, but there's someone that's been through the whole process that can guide us through it and make sure we don't make mistakes like that. That's what was done.
I'm not a building guy, but what resonated with me is about the basement. When they redid the state office complex in Waterbury, there was all sorts of stuff below grade. They removed everything out of the tunnels and basements and filled in that with this odd mix of styrofoam and concrete, so it's now impervious below, like.
That's what they had proposed to do to the post office section here. But even that, I questioned whether they were really filling it up high enough to actually meet the FEMA requirements. Because the post office, the FEMA requirements are 1 foot less than what our zoning requirements require. And the post office floor meets the zoning requirements by 6/10 of an inch. So they need to squeeze everything, all the construction. They gotta move some pipes and stuff and fit it into that space to meet the zoning. Maybe they can get it into the foot that the FEMA gives them, but
Okay.
Close.
So my thought as the chair is that I'm not seeing any members of the select board jumping up and saying me. So that leaves us with everybody sleeping out and coming back at the next meeting and saying me, or taking the other option and making these 2 seats available to the public. Thoughts?
I can join.
You can join? Okay. Would you take him?
Second.
Oh, Bart's the second one?
I thought it worked.
Well, thank you, David. So we would need a motion to appoint David.
I make a motion to appoint David Sander to the Town Center.
Second.
Okay. And David says that he will do it. Thank you, David. We have a motion made by Adam Wood, seconded by Bart.
Yeah.
To appoint David Sander to the Town Center Committee. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, aye.
Bart, aye.
David abstain.
Adam, I.
And Jay and I. Now, since it seems unrealistic to get another member of the select board this time, do we want to make the remaining empty seat available to the public?
I think so. I think I'm obviously I would be a candidate to do that. I have no idea what you're talking about in terms of, so I don't think that would be me. But, and then the other side of things, select board is awesome and I'm here and committed to this. I don't think at this time that I can commit to another huge project and committee and give it the energy that I would hope that I could. And so I think that someone from the town member who is passionate about joining that and being part of that would be a more of a contribution than I could be at this point in time.
Karen? Are you?
We asked you, Bard, if you would please consider being on the committee. I really think this committee has not had any interest from the public. It has had no real public attending the meetings. It really needs, you've been on the select board for 10, 12 years. It really needs somebody to see this through in the next 12 months to really get a plan in place. So I'm asking two select board members to please help us move this forward.
Look, if it was made, you know, a committee member, is there? How do we recruit someone? I mean, we've asked in the past, I think, I wrote a front porch forum post here back when, long time ago. And said, you know, we have open seats, please come and help us, and we didn't hear anything. I don't know what we can do to.
Well,
encourage
blackmail has
someone
worked in the past.
So I'm willing to do it as long as I don't have to chair or vice chair or secretary treasurer or jargon buster or.
You won't have to do any of that, just have an opinion.
And I'll say, it's just my observation, I think when the bond failed, it took some wind out of the sails. People were really motivated to do things. For better or worse, whether you agree on the proposal or not, that there was a lot of momentum and energy, and I think people were daunted by that, and that's to some degree working against us at this point.
And everyone that had worked on it, except Amy had hanging for a while, but left, and it kind of left the vacuum for us to come in and
Pick up the
not
pieces.
pick up the pieces, and it's taken us a long time to get things together. I think we.
Mike, they're
not
looking.
Okay, so we'll need a motion.
I nominate Bard Hill.
I second that.
Oh, took me a second to get that on the replay. We have a motion from David Sanders, seconded by Caitlin Filkins to appoint Bard Hill to the Town Center Committee. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bard abstain.
David, I.
Thank you.
Adam. And Jayhan. So thank the two of you. This is a commitment that I know neither of you thinks likely.
Jay, can I just give them one quick update? We're not having any meetings until we have RFPs to review, so you're not gonna miss anything until they come in. How does that make your day?
Well, it makes my month.
That's the current plan, but now that we have to.
Yeah.
Maybe we should.
Cart, horse.
Our meetings were.
Good night, before one of them gets done. We can talk about outside money.
Yeah, okay. So we're moving item L up, the sales process for the Tesla. Let's go ahead and get that update.
So it's kind of a short update. Matt's been in touch, or Sergeant Cohen has been in touch with Carvana. They asked for a good amount of documentation, trying to gather for them, including, articles of incorporation and certificate of good standing, which seems to be more applicable to a nonprofit than the town. So we're trying to figure out what we can get to with the equivalent to prove to them that we do in fact own the Tesla and can sell it.
We have a title, don't we?
We do have a title, but Carvana has, they've asked for a lot. We've gotten them some of it. We're still working on the rest of it. But trying to do that process forward. So the
Title's not enough.
apparently not. I have not been super close to the process. Matt was taking the lead on it, and I know where we're stuck right now is they need articles of incorporation and if it's standing. Suzanne Parent, our clerk, has reached out to Secretary of State to say, what could we give them to prove that we are a town in good standing? So we're trying to figure that out, but so. Complicated process apparently to sell the Carvana, but we're working on it.
Have we verified that they will accept cars that have been modified? What? That have been modified from the police car back?
I can ask Sergeant Cohen, I don't know if he's asked that. I assume he told them, but maybe they didn't ask, he didn't tell. I'm not sure.
Have you ever seen the Blues Brothers?
Yes.
I don't want to put more work on him, but someone did mention to me that I was with that they thought Carvana wouldn't take cars that had been modified. And so before you do all the work, I would just verify that,
Yeah, we can
They
do
were-
that. It's a
yeah.
point.
Good point.
just to save some time.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a unsound, I hope it is, but
It's a non-starter, then we're back out to bid or something.
It's got cop shocks.
We just leave the thing running and leave the door unlocked and just tear off.
yeah.
Try.
Our Tesla ran away.
Okay.
Or whole fried chickens and a Coke. Okay. So now we are into two related items, consideration of appointing a fire chief, possible executive session. And then following that discussion of process to appoint an assistant fire chief. Josh, would you please?
Sure. So, we've talked a bit about appointing fire chief since the retirement of Chief Kyle. We followed a process by which we reached out to the entire fire department to ask who would be interested in becoming appointed as fire chief. Jerry Levesque, responded to say that he would be interested, gave us a letter of interest, which I included into the email to the select board. The board nominated myself, Jay, and, wait, was it yet? Yeah, sorry. Myself, Jay, and Adam to interview. We interviewed Jerry last week. I think they all found him to be pretty well qualified for the job, had some good ideas for the future of the department. So we'd like to recommend moving forward with Jerry. Obviously, if the board would like to go into executive session to discuss the application or any Jerry's qualifications, you're welcome to do that. And Jerry's here as well, as you know.
Okay. Adam, would you like to chime in on that?
I don't see any reason to go into executive session. I think that Jerry has, I think we've had a unique opportunity that he's one, our only applicant, and two, he's had months of showing how he will lead the department, if not, I mean, obviously years, but also months as chief, and there are a lot of really positive changes, and both in the structure and the documentation, and also in morale and engagement. So I think we're on a very positive trajectory, and I think codifying this by appointing Jerry Levesque is the right thing to do, and I will be voting in favor.
Jerry, I've been on the board 11 years now, and in those 11 years, I've been very impressed every time I've asked you for information regarding operations at the fire department. You've always been very candid and very honest and very transparent and gotten right back to me. And there are times where the fire department would get rather heated questions, and when I was chair, I would just defer to you, and I was impressed with how you were able to answer the questions in a civil but authoritative manner. And I wholly support you being the chief, and looking forward to working with you.
All of the above. Yeah, I see no reason to go into executive session. I'm glad you applied. Thank you, Jerry.
And I will just add that as, again, one of the people who interviewed Jerry, I like the fact that he is willing to look at ways to build the sense of community within the department, to make people feel like they have more of a stake. Right now, as everybody pretty much knows, we have difficulty getting some of the members who don't respond to calls on a regular basis to respond to calls, and giving people more of a sense of belonging, bringing their families and children in, making it more of a community. I think people will be more committed to an organization they feel that they have a stake in.
And they're proud of.
Jerry, I really liked how you've shown up here the past couple months and just brought a positive energy and, moving forward and really making some significant changes. So I appreciate all the work that you've already done. Looking forward to seeing what you can do.
Move to appoint Jerry Levesque to the position of Richmond Fire Chief for a term of 3 years.
This is David. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Adam Wood, seconded by David Sander, to appoint Jerry Levesque to the position of fire chief for a term of
3 years.
3 years.
That's what we had settled on.
Yeah.
I know we had discussions about this. Yes, okay, I'm sorry.
Any further discussion?
Jerry, I would just ask that you facilitate open communication with the board. If you have concerns or challenges, you let us know. I've always said our job is to give you the equipment you need to do your job. But part of that is effective communication. So if you have concerns or thoughts or ideas, or just want to chat, let us know. We have so many things going on in front of us that we cannot see something that you're very aware of. And I just don't want to see a situation where there's a lack of communication and something festers. So please keep that communication going. If you ever need anything, want anything, or just want to talk, keep that dialogue open.
And if you want us to all respond with you on calls, you know, just tell us when the fire is gonna be.
If you want us to come to the fire station and, you know, get a tour and I'll hang out for a little while, that's also fine. I mean, I would do that.
Welcome anytime. Tonight we had burgers and dogs and the guys who didn't enjoy that, so.
Nice.
Okay,
I
so,
have a good rapport with Josh so far.
okay,
You got 3 years to change that.
okay, so we have a motion made by Adam, seconded by David. Sorry, it's getting late and I'm old and tired. To appoint Jerry to be chief for a term of 3 years. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David,
Adam, I.
Jay, aye.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, the next
Congratulations.
item is discussion of the process for appointing assistant chiefs. Do you want to take that or do you want Josh to take that?
Josh, can take-
Sure, so we talked a little bit about an assistant chief in the interview with Jerry. It sounds like there's probably gonna be a few people that might apply for that position, so we wanted to make sure that we had a good process laid out for that, so that everybody knows or how we're conducting it and what the rules and parameters are. So sort of looking at following a very similar process to what we did to appoint the chief. We do need to probably start with a job description. We don't. Jerry, I know, has looked around other towns. It doesn't seem that any of them have a job description for a volunteer assistant chief. I asked from League of Cities and Towns if they have a model. I haven't heard back from them yet. If they do, we'll build off of that. If they don't, we can draft something up. I think we kind of know the basic qualifications and duties. Once we have that, and I think we'd like to set up a committee made up of 2 select board members, the chief, Gary Levesque, and myself. Then we'll ask for all interested firefighters to respond with a cover letter and resume and list of qualifications. Interview all the candidates and then ask for feedback from the firefighters on all the candidates. Being clear that it's not a vote, it's additional information for the committee and the select board to consider while making the choice for assistant chief.
Any thoughts? Okay, so again, the first step would be to create a job description before we start the search. And if you're waiting to hear back from the LCT.
Yeah.
Would the NFPA by any chance be a place to talk about that?
If you look at the NFPA rules, what they request for an officer in the fire department, I don't believe the town of Richmond qualifies. You know, in fire science, you want fire officer 1 and 2, I want firefighter 1 and 2 with EMT. So
That could be a barrier.
But could it be a starting point? Like if they have sort of a model form, could we look and say, yes, these things apply, these don't, and these gives us some to start from rather than just how to fit in. Or even I could sit down and go, you could tell me what you think you need for assistant chief. And then I think we should probably come back to the board for approval of that job description, just to make sure that we have everything that the board would want, and then we can start the process.
Great. That makes sense. And like Jerry said, I think that if you start with that as a template, you will be backing out more things than you'll be keeping. So it makes sense to really think about like what we actually want the assistant chief to do and start from scratch on that. Might actually be easier and more.
Yeah, I just muttered to Josh, if we could ask ChatGPT, and again, that would not be the final decision, but it could probably kick out a good template.
What if we read it?
I could actually help with that.
Description and let ChatGPT just vote on it.
So let's not use ChatGPT. Let's use another one of them, but we could use
Perplexity or
yeah, either Perplexity or Claude to write up a draft, and we can give it the information of that we're a small town, we have this population, and yes,
Well, so what do you need Jerry and I to put sort of our qualifications together?
Yeah.
What he needs, and then you can run that through the system?
Yeah, exactly. And any kind of context around like the fire department itself, that would be good to, set as context for the AI to then use to apply to like what would be good.
I think we can agree, don't use Grok.
No, please no.
Again, I think we would not like let's not even go there.
What you have to talk
Grok
about.
is AI, it's the one that tends to throw Hitler and big supremacy into everything.
It's been less than culturally sensitive lately.
During the time we have out front, we'll steer away from that one.
So in terms of I can certainly help with that, job description through the AI piece of things, just let me know what you need. I also realize that you're requesting 2 select board members. This is something that I could help with if there's a need for one of us, in that I've done a lot of hiring and interviewing processes, not in a fire department, but in generally. And so I could help from that perspective if that was
Agreed.
we're open to that. Okay.
Yeah, you've been saying for a few weeks, I'm new, well, jump in, get your feet wet.
This I can do. I know how to interview. And I also, if there's anything else that I can help with in that process, like around AI generally or otherwise, let me know.
You want to appoint a second member at this point, or we can also come back on August 4th for a second member when we have.
You want a second member?
I don't know much about firefighter things.
You know a lot more than.
That's, I can't say what I was gonna say, that's BS. I will be the second member.
Oh, pshaw.
David or Bard to appoint these two to the.
I appoint Adam Wood and Caitlin.
Second.
Okay, we have motion from David Center, seconded by Adam Wood, to designate Adam Wood and Caitlin Filkins to be the 2 members of the select board involved in the assistant fire chief search. Please state your name and your vote.
Abstain.
Bard, aye.
David, I.
Adam abstain.
It's up to you.
Jay,
Just got it.
aye. Okay, going down the home stretch, and I'd like to comment, it's actually only 8:45, it feels later.
Yeah,
Thanks, Jerry. Congratulations.
thank you.
Consideration of accepting a class 2 highway paving grant. This is a state grant that will be used for paving on Jericho Road. The total amount of the grant is $184,977.60, with a 20% match of $46,244, which will come from the paving budget. How much of Jericho Road will this pay?
I don't know exactly. I think it's a mile or so. We're actually pretty fortunate to even get this grant because we just got one last year, and usually you wait 6 or 7 years for the next one. But apparently people towns that were higher up the list in Richmond didn't apply. So they sent us an email and said, would you accept 184? And we said, yeah.
Okay.
And our full request was 200,000, but they had this funding basically left over, so.
It's amazing.
This will be great. It'll go right towards Jericho Road. It'll help save some money in the budget or allow us to use the same budget to do more. A lot of time with PFAS.
I move to accept the class 2 highway paving grant.
Jay, this is David. I'll second.
We have a motion from Caitlin Filkins, seconded by David Sander, to accept the class 2 highway paving grant. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, aye.
Bard, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
Jay, aye. Moving on, consideration of accepting a drinking water state revolving fund loan for the Tilden Avenue, Bridge Street and Cochrane Road Waterline Replacement Project. This loan provides a 50% forgiveness on a 1.9 million waterline replacement project. This loan will be paid back by the water customers, but the Water and Sewer Commission does not have bonding authority or borrowing authority. So they have voted to ask the select board to use its borrowing authority. So we have to vote to accept the loan, to do the loan and take the money. 3 of us are on the Water and Sewer Commission, so we know what this is all about. But Caitlin and Adam, do you have any questions about how this DWSRF thing would work and why we're the ones voting on it?
Are the folks that are impacted aware that they will have this reflected in their water bill?
I'm sorry, what was that?
All good.
Are they affected?
Are the people that will be, if I'm reading this right, the people who are affected by this change will have it reflected in their water bill and would pay for it? Over time?
We're a few years out from that, but there was a bond vote through the town, I guess, 2 years ago for this project, and we're currently moving forward to get it out to bid. So, yeah,
So
it's been approved by the bond, by the bond vote.
But more,
I'll just say the whole story of water sewer is far deeper and wetter than just this. Because of the 20-year engineering study, this actually makes a lot of sense in terms of water line replacement. There's very little old lines left after this. The big money, though, is going to be in the wastewater treatment plant. And we'll have to wrestle with how we pay for that. These kinds of things tend to come and go. You pay for them for a while, then you're done. The treatment plant is a big pill to swallow. So It's a good question.
Lovely.
These things tend to be manageable in terms of scale.
Mhm.
That one is still a question mark.
But this project specifically has been talked about for years and discussed at the annual meeting of the water and sewer customers, so they're aware.
Okay,
And once this is done, based on what Stephen Cote said tonight, or water and sewer superintendent, once this is done, the only remaining significant water line to be replaced will be from the round church just past Stone Corral. And the obvious question is, why was that not included? And it's in the conditions of the loan that we could not use it on that. But so we will have 500 or so feet to replace at some, hopefully soon, future point. Any other questions or thoughts?
Jay, this is David. I move to accept the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund loan for the Tilden Avenue, Bridge Street, and Cochrane Road Water Line Replacement Project, which provides a 50% forgiveness on up to 1.9 million in funds borrowed.
this is Caitlin, I'll second.
Motion made by David Sanders, seconded by Caitlin Filkins, to accept the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund loan for the Tilden Avenue, Bridge Street, and Cochrane Road Water Line Replacement Project, which provides 50% forgiveness on up to 1.9 million in funds borrowed. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
And Jay, aye. Okay, so as we're moving into the financial items and minutes, I just want to call out that during the 7/7 meeting, July 7th, yours truly neglected to call for a vote on the warrants. So in addition to the warrants, purchase orders and minutes for tonight to approve, we also need a motion to approve the warrants for the July 7th. So let's start with the minutes for July 7th. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, updates?
Jay, this is David. I move to approve the minutes of the July 7th meeting.
Caitlin, I'll second.
Motion made by David Sanders, seconded by Caitlin Filkins to approve the minutes of July 7th. Any changes, any additions? Seeing none, please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
Jay, aye. Okay, so shall we do the purchase orders next?
Yeah, and I'm just realizing,
Oh, God.
no, I didn't include them in the list of. Oh, no, they are there. I'm sorry. I looked right by them. I thought I didn't give them to you electronically, but I looked right by them. They are there. Okay, phew. Wouldn't have been a disaster, but let me pull those up.
This is Adam. I move to approve purchase order 5202 to Richmond Rescue.
Let's actually show it first so the recording can get it. Because you never know when people will be looking later at this. Okay. So as Adam was saying, purchase order 5202 to Richmond Rescue. This is our annual contribution for fiscal year 26, $60,088. Okay, so Adam made the motion. Would anybody like to second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so motion made by Adam Wood, seconded by David Sander to approve this purchase order. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
And Jay, aye. Next, for Richmond Land Trust, Conservation Reserve Fund. What is this? This is funding for the Beacon Preserve parking lot, which we discussed at a recent meeting. To significantly upgrade, improve it, and relocate it to some extent. This would be for $30,170. Any questions?
Jay, this is David. I move to approve purchase order number 5206 to the Richmond Land Trust for the parking lot at Beacon Preserve in the amount of $30,170.
This is Caitlin, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by David Sanders, seconded by Caitlin Filkins to purchase order. What number was it?
5206.
To the Richmond Land Trust for improving the Beacon Preserve plot in an amount not to exceed $30,170. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
And Jay, aye. Okay, next, is this the last one?
Yep.
Vermont Recreational Surfacing and Fencing. for the pickleball court in an amount of $144,911.
Jay, this is Bart. I move to approve purchase order number 5207 to Vermont Recreational Surfacing and Fencing for the installation of pickleball courts in the amount of $144,911.
Jay, this,
Go ahead.
Jay, this is David. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Bart Hill, seconded by David Sander for purchase order 5207 for paying for the pickleball courts to Vermont Recreational Surfacing and Fencing in the amount of $147,911. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
And Jay, aye. Okay, can we get a motion to approve the warrants from this meeting?
I move to approve the warrants from the July 7th, 2025 meeting. So,
This is Bart. I'll second it.
Okay, so those are from the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion from Caitlin Filkin, seconded by Bart Hill to approve the warrants from July 7th. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
And Jay, aye. Okay, now warrants from tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Bart, I'll second.
Motion from David Sanders, seconded by Bart Hill to approve the warrants from tonight's meeting. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
And Jay, aye.
Yeah.
Okay. Item for next agenda.
Well, we should discuss signs and possible ordinances for signs,
Policy.
policies. Yes, thank you.
Okay. I know
And-
there were a number of other things we kicked down the road.
Invite the Richmond Land Trust to come and speak to us about the River Trail plan.
Conservation Commission's had a meeting between now and then to bring that item back.
Yeah, I don't think they will.
Well, if they wanted to warn one to get it moving, so long as they follow the warning process, it's hypothetically possible, but okay. Anything else? Move to invade Bolton or anything like that? Josh says he thinks we can take him.
Would we want to?
I don't know.
They have a lot of
They're
debt.
really kicking them when they're down right now.
There's a
We can seize their tennis
just a
court.
lot of roads to repair, I know.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll invade after they fix this. Okay. Okay. So our next final two items are possible executive sessions to evaluate an employee. The first executive session would be made up of the select board, but not the town manager. And then the second one would include the town manager. The motions are in the agenda, in the packet. Would anybody like to make those motions?
Jay, this is David. I move to find that premature public knowledge about the evaluation of an employee would cause the town or person to suffer a substantial disadvantage.
This is Bart, I'll second.
We have a motion made by David Sanders, seconded by Bart Hill to find that premature public knowledge about the evaluation of an employee would cause the town or person to suffer a substantial disadvantage. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
And Jay, aye.
Jay, this is David. I move that we enter into executive session to discuss the evaluation of an employee under the provisions of 1 VSA 313A3 of the Vermont
This is
statutes.
Bart, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion made by David Sanders, seconded by Bart Hill to enter into executive session to discuss the evaluation of an employee under the provisions of 1 VSA 313A3 of the Vermont statute. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
And Jay, aye.
You want to take these with you or these?
Okay, we have returned from our first executive session. We have contemplated an executive session for a related purpose. It's the motions for which are in your packet. I'd like to make them.
This is the next executive session, right?
Yeah.
I move to find that premature public knowledge about the evaluation of an employee would cause the town or person to suffer a substantial disadvantage.
Jay, this is David. I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Caitlin Filkin, seconded by David Sander to find that premature public knowledge of an employee evaluation would put the town or individual at a disadvantage. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
Jay, aye. Okay.
I move that we enter into executive session to discuss the evaluation of an employee under the provisions of 1 VSA 313A3 of the Vermont statutes and to invite town manager Josh Arneson into the executive session.
Jay, this is David. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Caitlin Filkins, seconded by David Sander. To move that we enter executive session to discuss the evaluation of weight under the provision 1 VFA 313.3 of the Vermont statutes and to invite town manager Josh Arneson into the executive session. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, aye.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Jay, aye. Watching, we will be back. So we have returned from executive session after evaluating our town manager, and
Save you a lot of time.
we are now ready to adjourn. Have a motion to adjourn.
This is David, so moved.
Caitlin, second.
We have a motion from David Sanders, seconded by Caitlin Filkins to adjourn. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, aye.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Adam, I.
And Jay, aye.